Two Colombia dropouts just raised $15 million from Andreessen Horowitz for an AI tool that helps you cheat on everything. Their company, Cluely, went from 0 to $120 million in valuation in just 5 months, generating over 1 billion views along the way. But behind the viral videos and the controversy lies a critical question for both investors and startup founders. When does brilliant marketing become pure hype? Today, we're dissecting the Cluely phenomenon to understand what founder can learn from viral marketing, but also what red flags investors should look at when the hype machine goes into overdrive. Before we get started, please consider subscribing to this channel. I publish a new video every week, bringing you behind the scenes of the VC world and the YC ecosystem. Thank you very much. Roy Lee's trajectory began with rejection. Harvard rescinded his acceptance after a curfew violation during a field trip. Then he spent a year in isolation learning to code. Then after getting into Colombia, he met Neil Shanmugam. Together, they built Interview AI, an AI layer that sits on top of your computer to provide you real-time answers during code interviews. Lee used Interview Coder systematically and got great job offers at Amazon, Meta, and TikTok. These applications served a dual purpose: to prove that the product works, but also to create viral content for it. He, of course, filmed and documented each interview, proving the effectiveness of his tool in real-world scenarios with real companies. Then, Colombia expels him for academic dishonesty. Most people would hide in shame, but Roy turned it into a superpower. Roy understood something fundamental in today's world: being talked about is more important than being perfect. When Cluely officially launched in April 2025, they achieved something unique that had never been done before. Over 4 million views in their very first week with a brand new account that just didn't existed days before. How did they pull this off? Well, they built what can only be described as a content factory. Their approach follows what they call the 100-to-1 rule, which is create 100 posts and 1 will go viral. Then take that same video, post it across 100 different social accounts, and 20 to 30 of those will also go viral. The scale here is staggering. They have 50 interns, each creating 4 videos per day. That's 200 videos each day. It's kind of crazy. They also hired an idea guy whose only job is to come up with 100 unique video ideas every day. They pay over 60 creators to live in San Francisco and make content daily, plus 700 clippers who take content from the common repository and make short social clips. But here's where it gets even more sophisticated. They specifically target and hire mid-size influencers with between 10,000 and 100,000 followers, paying them between $20 and $40 per video, plus a $1,000 bonus if any content goes over 1 million views. They also buy dormant TikTok and Instagram accounts with already established followers because those platforms trust more old accounts with established followings than new ones. They even have a rent meme page strategy where they buy content on very popular accounts for a short period of time. For example, this page, Introvert Vix, has 600,000 followers. They post very regularly about Cluely, leave the post for 48 hours to get engagement, and then they delete the post to maintain the overall account aesthetics. This creates a massive visibility spikes without needing a long-term association in between the two brands. And of course, many brands don't want to be associated with Cluely because it's so controversial, but they're still interested to get paid, so they just post it for 24 hours and take it down. They also have a coaching infrastructure, assigning performance managers to each creators with a weekly discussion around content and how to improve performance. It's crazy. Of course, over time, they're able to identify the best performing creators and put all of their energy behind them. So what makes Cluely so effective? Well, they've weaponized several psychological biases and phenomena that are known to bring viral content. First, the moral outrage. Their tagline, "Cheat on everything," activates what researchers call a moral emotional reaction. We know on social media that anything touching to emotions associated with the moral behind it gets a lot of views and attention because it provokes a reaction in everyone. Second is they embrace negative high arousal content. Roy explicitly says that if half of the audience doesn't hate something, it won't go viral. This is not accidental. Studies have shown that negative content goes viral much more than just positive content that doesn't elicit outrage. Third is they tap into a genuine problem. The recent tech job market has been brutal, with computer science majors facing the highest unemployment rates of recent graduates. Interview Coder resonated because it addressed a common pain point, even if the ethics behind it were questionable. But what about the technology? Well, when journalists tested the current version of Cluely, the results were mixed at best. The Verge headline read, "I used the cheat on everything AI tool and it didn't help me cheat on anything." A standard reporter tried using it for an interview with an editing text, and Cluely got every grammar question wrong. The product is essentially a translucent overlay that sits on top of your screen, that's not visible when you're screen sharing, and that provides real-time suggestions based on your audio and your video. It's technically clever, but practically limited. Responses are slow, suggestions are generic, and overall, the content is unreliable. Yet, Cluely claims $7 million in annual recurring revenue and over 100,000 users. And so the disconnect between product quality and actual growth raises the question of what's actually driving this behavior with their consumers. So startups can actually learn from this? Well, there are some good lessons to be extracted from this, but they have to be picked carefully. First, speed over perfection is good and can work, only if you're committed to improving over time. Second, content creation is a very good way to acquire customers. And actually, a lot of B2B companies really underperform there and sometimes don't even touch it when they should. Third, controversy. It could cut through the noise and get you the attention, but obviously it's also a double-edged sword because it might limit your market or actually turn people off. And fourth, personal branding can help accelerate a company. So Roy's willingness to put his own name, face, and reputation out there created a human connection that's very difficult to replicate without this. And now for investors, what can we learn from this? Well, clearly demonstrate some patterns that warrant more scrutiny if we were to invest in a company of any type for that matter. First is the disconnect between marketing spend and the quality of the product. There probably is a good time to spend millions of dollars in marketing, but if the product isn't good, it's not going to be sticky with your users and it's probably too early. So first, fix a leaky bucket before dumping money into marketing. Of course, with Cluely, the growth numbers also are very murky, and that's a big problem. When companies don't share retention data, it's usually because they're not good, and it ties back to the first point. It's probably because the product is not good enough at that point. Third is the reputational risk. A company that says it helps you cheat on everything is great for buzz, but over time, it might not be great to be associated with that, and it might actually bring them more problems than anything else. And fourth, of course, is burn rate. Maintaining 50 interns plus 60 creators plus 700 clippers is probably costing a lot of money. Traditional Moat theory usually relies on network effect or maybe switching cost, and of course, technological innovation and patents. But sometimes brand can be your moat. Even in B2B, by the way, it's not only Coca-Cola, but when you think CRM, you think Salesforce. IBM had this big brand that they enforced years after years. And you can also think of McKinsey, who's a big name. When you think of consulting, you think McKinsey. Brands also create a virtuous circle where you can attract better talent, that in turn will give you better outcomes and results, which drives better outcomes for the company. Cluely represents something larger than just another overhyped startup. They've identified a fundamental shift in how companies can achieve massive scales in this new attention economy. Undoubtedly, they've mastered the art of viral marketing. Their content machine is impressive, but also their understanding of all the psychological levers to pull and the way they're able to transform controversy into capital and users is honestly remarkable. These are great skills that many founders can study and try to replicate. But big businesses are built on fundamentals. Cluely's long-term prospects and their survival depends on if they're able to shift from attention generation to actual value creation for their customers. Can they build something that people would use independently of their marketing? Sustainable businesses solve real problems with real solutions independently of how well they're marketed. Now, there's one more thing I want to add here, and it's the arms race in the latest trend of startups' launch videos. Cluely's viral launch video featuring Roy using their AI tool on a blind date and ending with a woman storming out very angry got 13 million views on X. This single piece of content probably generated more investor interest than any deck, any pitch, or even any metrics. The video controlled the narrative entirely, positioning Cluely as audacious innovators and not controversial cheaters. This reflects a broader shift in the startup ecosystem. The YC startups recently have more and more been launching with very polished videos that usually cost them between $10,000 up to $50,000. And it works. These videos usually generate a lot of customer interest, but also a lot of investor interest with potentially a valuation premium for the founders without changing anything to your product, but just how you market it. This phenomenon stems from how VCs actually make their investment decisions rather than how they say they do them. So, all VCs, they claim they look at the product quality and the team and the market and the opportunity, etc. But in reality, many partners are being swooped by good storytelling. A startup that looks hot through a viral video is going to always be much more interesting to an investor who doesn't want to miss out on that round that might maybe be oversubscribed soon. So that's a new psychological thing that those founders can exploit. And those launch videos can serve multiple purposes. So there's the investor angle I just talked about. It's also attracting customers, but it also demonstrates the founders' marketing sophistication. Most importantly, they establish narrative control for the company before any skeptical ideas can emerge. That's very powerful. And the production quality of the videos has drastically increased. Early startup videos used to be like this, just a founder sitting down in front of a camera talking about his product. Nowadays, they require, polished scripts, cinematic editing, and again, a big budget. So I might also be out of business doing videos like this. In any case, that's why Cluely is really representing those types of new companies. That was the Cluely story. Tell me in the comments what you think. Have you been using the tool? Thank you for watching until the end. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week.